I'm a marketing strategist, and my goal is to help you build those marketing muscles and gain confidence when you do your marketing so that you can do it and feel good about it every single time. Today's episode is a little bit different than I've done in the past, and it is about giving up. What an uplifting topic, right? One of the things I want to talk about is what do we do when we feel like we want to give up? When we want to pitch our business out the nearest window, what are some questions that maybe we should be asking ourselves before we actually throw anything? I think it's something that doesn't get talked about often enough that we don't always love our businesses, and sometimes it's really frustrating, and sometimes we're ready to give up. And sometimes that's the right choice. And sometimes we just need a little bit of a break and a little bit of realignment in how we think about what we're doing. So if you've ever thought about giving up your business, about throwing it out the nearest window, about walking away from it forever, this episode is for you. I want to say I have worked with businesses of all types and sizes. Almost anything that you can think of as a business, I have probably worked with them in one way or another. And most of those businesses obviously come to me as a marketing strategist to help them figure out their marketing, how to streamline it, how to get better results, fix the leaky buckets, all of those things. But sometimes, especially small businesses, especially the solopreneur types, they come to me because they are ready to give up. They are ready to either figure out their business, figure out their marketing, or burn it all down. And sometimes I don't think they really care about which one that is. They just need something and they're not quite sure what they're looking for. Because I've had enough conversations with business owners and I've worked with enough people who are in that position where they're just ready to be done. I wanted to have an episode where we are talking about that. It's one of the things that small businesses deal with, and it doesn't get talked about because it gets kind of buried under the bro dude marketing and that you're just not doing it hard enough and everybody else gets it kind of feelings. So I wanted to give some space to why might you feel like giving up? Are there any things that we can do to kind of help you figure out which way you want to go? And let you know that you're not the only one who feels that way. Like I said, I've worked with so many businesses over the years, and the first time somebody came to me that way, I was like really surprised. Number one, that they were like, I'm either going to do marketing or I'm going to shut my business. That's where I'm at. But I've worked with so many people who are in that position, and we've gotten good results for them. And some people have shut their business because they're just like, I'm done. Like I really am at the end of my road here. And sometimes it was a matter of shifting their perspective. And sometimes it was a matter of just refining some things. So let's talk about it. So why might you feel this way? I think the biggest one for small business owners, honestly, is a combination of burnout and exhaustion, because running a small business for most of us never stops. Even if we love it, even if it is our favorite thing, even if we have poured our whole heart and soul into it, there is a level of exhaustion that a lot of business owners reach where they are just tired of running the race. And even if they're getting good results from it, sometimes they're just burned out and exhausted and not sure if they want to continue. That's totally normal. For some people that I've worked with, it's been that they were trying to attract the wrong audience. Either they grew their business to attract a very specific kind of audience and they themselves wanted to shift, or their audience shifted and it just wasn't a good fit for them anymore. They were attracting people and they were having business, but it wasn't bringing them any joy. It wasn't making them happy. And they were just really frustrated and they weren't sure what to do or how to change that because they kept attracting somebody that they didn't want to work with, but then they felt like they had to work with them because they had a business and there they are. Some people come to me and they want to shift their business. They have worked with a very specific audience and they are done working with that audience and they want to shift and they're not sure how, because at that point they're basically starting their business over again. And sometimes that's because they're bored. It's sometimes because their work has become so routine, their work is just not fulfilling to them anymore. And so that's the reason that they're ready to be done. And then sometimes it's a combination of the thing that they used to do doesn't work anymore. They're frustrated, they're exhausted, they're overwhelmed. They don't want to do that anymore. Or they have competition in any way that they didn't have before. Maybe they were like the first in their industry to do something or the first in their area. And then over time, there's now competition because their business has been successful. So now there's competition and they have to rethink what they want for their business and what that looks like in the long term. Sometimes it's just the positioning. Sometimes it's frustration. Sometimes they're just done. And I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those emotions. And I think in small business circles, it is kind of taboo to talk about sometimes because it can feel like if one person can feel that way, then do we all feel that way? And should we all maybe just close our businesses and move on? And in this kind of closed space where it's just you and I talking, we can have that conversation because it's just us. We're just chatting, right? It's normal to have these feelings, and these feelings don't necessarily have to be long term. Sometimes it's just a really bad weekend or a really bad month, or, everybody in your house is sick and you're just exhausted on top of everything else. So sometimes this is just a temporary thing, but sometimes it does stretch into months where you are just like, is this the thing that makes me close my business? And over the past several years, where small businesses have dealt with so many challenges and, shopping habits are changing and all of these things that have happened in the world that impact small businesses, it's been really hard for small businesses. And there's a lot of feeling, I think, of people feeling like, maybe I'm done. Maybe I'm done. I always joke that when I get in that mood, because I've definitely gotten in that mood in my own business, even though I am so incredibly lucky to do marketing as my business, which is my favorite topic ever. And it is the most perfect Venn diagram for me. But every now and then, I think maybe maybe I should just be a barista, right? Like, I get coffee and I get to talk to people and it's short interactions. That doesn't seem terrible. I could be a barista. I could do that. So with all of these feelings, and these are completely valid, let's talk about, are they actually where you want to go? Or are there some ways that we can help you kind of shift mindset around these things and maybe feel a little bit more excited about your business, maybe not feel quite so exhausted? So number one, do you hate your business or are you just tired? Are you completely done with your business, or do you just need some time off because you have been pushing yourself too hard for too long? And if that's the case, how can you give yourself some breathing room? How can you take some time off? How can you take a step back? And for some people, that means taking their business to halftime and getting a regular, like, 9 to 5 kind of job, or picking up something else on the weekends. There's nothing wrong with running your business and also having a job that supports you if you need that. I feel like that's another thing that entrepreneurs don't talk about very often, is that there is this expectation that this business that you have, no matter what size it is, should be the thing that supports you. And if you do anything else, then you're somehow betraying your business. And I don't think that's true. I think the thing that gives you peace and lets you sleep at night is more important than your business. If it is stability and that's what you need, then get the job and run your business on the side. That's completely fine, completely normal. Many, many, many people, trust me when I say this because I worked with hundreds and hundreds of people. Many people have taken a step back and then come back to their business when they were ready for a variety of reasons, and they're all valid. Whatever your reason is, I promise you it's valid. Something else I've seen, especially when it comes to attracting the right kind of clients, sometimes people are working with people who are absolutely draining them and making them dread their job. And even in a regular job, we've all had that coworker that just makes us dread going to work. We've had that coworker who is just unpleasant to be around. But when you're a small business owner and these are your clients, these are your customers, it feels a little bit different. So if you are attracting a customer that doesn't make you feel good, makes you feel exhausted, then we can talk about, how do we shift that? How do we attract a different kind of customer for you? One that you get excited to work with instead of feeling exhausted by. Because your work, your business, yes, it's going to be exhausting. It's going to be frustrating. That's part of the thing about having a small business. But it shouldn't be every single day as a grind because of the people that you work with. Maybe the people aren't draining you, but they're not the ones that you are really excited to work with. And maybe that's a messaging problem or a price point problem. And those are all conversations that we can have. But this is something that businesses have been through. If you're in this position where you are attracting clients that you're not excited to work with for whatever reason, you're not the only one who has been there. Someone once told me that small business owners and entrepreneurs have a really high incidence of ADHD, meaning because I'm one of them, we like a lot of variety. We like a lot of moving pieces. We like the challenge. Our brains are always growing really fast. So sometimes when somebody comes to me and they are really frustrated with their business, what we find out is they're just bored. They're done. They're just not getting joy out of it. There's nothing wrong with their customers. There's nothing wrong with their business, but it's not bringing them the excitement that they need to want to feel invested in it anymore. Again, totally normal. So one of the things that we can look at then is, how can we add a little bit more excitement to your business? How can we help you be more creative? How can we tweak what you're doing so that you feel invigorated again by your business? And finally, sometimes the messaging is just wrong. Sometimes for whatever reason, the messaging that we're putting out there is not attracting the people that we want. It's just falling flat for the people that we do want and is attracting people that we don't want. So sometimes when we are frustrated with our business, it's because we're not talking to the right people in a way that makes sense to them so that they will want to come see us. So if that sounds familiar, then look at your messaging and really think about who you really want to work with. And when I say this, I don't mean the traditional ideal client avatar where it's like a 30-year-old lady who wears heels and skirts and takes the bus to work and drinks this kind of coffee and has this kind of bag and likes this kind of movie. That's not what I'm talking about. I think that those kinds of exercises have a valid place. Sometimes they're not my favorite, but I can see the value. But for you, who do you specifically want to work with? What kind of client specifically for you, who do you want to work with? Not like what kind of coffee she drinks, not what kind of shoes she wears, but like what are the personality traits that you get excited to work with? So, as an example, I love working with people who like to DIY, but also need support. Because the thing is, all of us have a type of client or a type of working experience that we want to have. And as business owners, we get to develop that, we get to nurture that, we get to decide what that is and how to get more of it in our lives in a way that we wouldn't have in a traditional job. And for a lot of us, that's one of the reasons we started our businesses is there was a need in the world. We wanted to work in a different way. We wanted to feel a different way about our work. And all of that is completely normal. And in the same way that it's normal to get really frustrated and tired of our businesses sometimes, because they can be exhausting. We love them, but they can be exhausting, and that's completely fine. So as I wrap up, I want to say feeling frustrated with your business or feeling overwhelmed or feeling like, why isn't this doing what I want it to do is completely normal. And for some people, closing their business is absolutely the right choice. For others, what they need is a little bit of tweak and a little bit of work on their business and changing their expectations and changing their focus. And both paths are completely valid. I will say if you're feeling this over a long period of time, one of the things that you might benefit from is therapy. I am a pro therapy for everybody person, not necessarily a business coach, but an actual therapist to help you work out some stuff. That is really valuable and beneficial for so many of us, especially small business owners, because most of us are in our worlds talking to ourselves, or maybe we have our one, like our biz bestie, but having somebody who is not connected to us give us new information, helping us see things in a new way can be really beneficial. Sometimes you need a marketing strategist like me to help you figure out what your next steps are. And sometimes you need a therapist and you need to drink more water and you need to go for walks. Both options, completely valid. Sometimes they even work really good together. So if you're feeling that way, you have my full support to take care of yourself, to take time off, to work on feeling better about your business. If you have any questions or you've ever been here in your own business, please drop them in the comments. I would love to hear your experiences. Thank you so much for joining me.